Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Happy New Year. Kali Chronia. Welcome to our first Full Court Thrylos for 2026. Wow, 2025 went by very, very fast. It's your boy Dimitri here with Ioanni. We're going to be dissecting Olympiacos' EuroLeague defeat to Fenerbahce. And alongside that, talking about our new signings. We've had a very busy last few weeks and in particular last few days in the basketball department. But before we get into all that, new year, same us. So the message is the same. Please like and subscribe. Your help in any way, shape or form is appreciated so much. We are so appreciative of your love. Everything that you do with your interactions helps us promote the word of Olympiacos and spread Thrylos 7 International even further. So thank you so much. And with that in mind, also, I want to plug our Patreon. Again, all of your support, all of your financial support goes straight back into what we do with the shows, but also our data, our social media, our website, etc. So please consider joining our Patreon from as little as $1. We appreciate it so much. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce our third co-host for the night. It's Kostas Levoyanis. Here he is, right in the nick of time, right before we were about to start. Kostas, welcome to you. Happy New Year to you as well. Ioanni hasn't started chatting yet, so I haven't passed the baton to him either, but I'll go to him first just because he was in first. Ioanni, Happy New Year. How you feeling?
Happy New Year, everyone. Yeah, feeling good. I'm assuming you mean about the game.
Everything.
And everything. Everything's good.
A therapy podcast.
As far as the game, yeah, I mean, look, I feel good. I've been saying for a long time that I think things will work themselves out, and I think over the last sort of 2-3 weeks they have. Obviously, 3 weeks ago it was quite worrying because we had 3 games on the road against Bologna, who were at the time 6-1 at home. We had obviously Papanikolaou and we had Fener at the end of it all. There was a real worry we could have gone 0 for 3 in those games and then been in real trouble. I think if you told us that we could be 2 for 3 at the end of it all, we'd be quite happy with that because that would involve 2 tough wins on the road, and I think we've got an easy schedule coming up. I think, look, as far as the game is concerned, I'm actually taking a lot of positives from it. It was our 3rd game, I think, in 6 days. And even the Greek League game wasn't easy. It was against Aris on the road, which is one of the tougher games against non-Panathinaiko opposition in the league. I think, we were missing a lot of key players in this game. We were missing our 2 best bigs now. We were missing, Tyson Ward. We were missing Frank Ntilikina. We were missing a lot of players that I think, Shaq McKissick, a lot of players that I think could have made a difference in this game. And yet we kept the game quite close. We fought against a team that played well, that were making right decisions. We limited our turnovers quite a bit. Neither team shot particularly well. I think, look, overall, we did a good job. I'm not disappointed by the loss at all. I take a lot of encouraging signs from it. There was good ball movement. There were tough shots being made. We were patient on offense. Dante Hall had a good game. Overall, just positive signs. I don't think this is one of the losses that I'm mad about. I think this is one of the 3 or 4 toughest games we play all year, alongside Panathinaiko on the road, Monaco on the road, and probably Real or Barcelona on the road. I think overall didn't expect necessarily to win this game, so reasonably happy with the way we played. Could have won, would have been nice to win, but it's not the end of the world.
Cheers. We're going to go into more detail about the game in a sec. Costa, Happy New Year. How are you feeling?
Happy New Year. Good to be back. When the new year starts with a win against Panathinaikos, it's pretty good start to the year. I think that contributed a lot to kind of shifting the mood, and I think it was really needed, both for the fan base and for the team. I think just give that extra belief and boost going into 2026 and then the second half of the EuroLeague. So I think that was a big win to do that away from home in Oaxaca. Always a good thing. That was that 10-0 against Panathinaikos, 10 in a row in the EuroLeague. Of course, I want to say now that none of that matters if we end up facing them in the playoffs or even the final four. So yeah, enjoy that while it lasts. I think otherwise, in terms of today's game, I agree with everything that Johanni said. The last time we did a show, it's been a while now, right? And I think it's a good time to kind of put things into perspective. I think the fan base was very down after those 3 L's that we took against Zvezda, the way we collapsed in the fourth quarter in that game, and then the manner of the defeat in Barcelona as well. I think that was our worst game of the season. And then losing to Valencia at home, which again, in retrospect, credit to Valencia. I think they're top of the standings right now. Played excellent basketball that game. But being Olympiacos and losing 3 games on the row in the EuroLeague was very hard to swallow, for me at least. It's not something I can accept easy. But to bring things to today with the signing of Monte Morris and now Tyrique Jones, we've made 2 on paper very, very good additions to the team. I'm looking forward to having that discussion as well today about how we view the roster and whether to what extent we've leveled up and can make it to the final four again this year.
All right, let's get into today's game. You both touched on it a little bit. I agree with both of you, primarily Johanni, with the fact that this was a defeat that is not crushing. It's sort of expected, alongside Panathinaikos and maybe the 2 Spanish teams, Real Madrid and Barcelona, the 2 Spanish giants, and Monaco on the road. They're the toughest games you're going to play. You're not expecting, no matter what stage, no matter how well Olympiacos are playing and how shit your opposition's playing, those are the toughest games in the EuroLeague season, right? So you're not expecting a win no matter what existential circumstances are going on. So with that in mind, I'm not disappointed, but the game was there to be won. I think we ran out of steam at the end. Fenerbahce were the worst team of the 2, and they had more sort of space to get better. They were playing at a lesser level. The shots weren't dropping. There was 0% from 3 in the first half, which is just crazy. So the fact that they started hitting their shots and improved enabled them to get that win, in my opinion. Because let's say our level was here, like this is quite low, right? And their level was here. They had so much more room, but the difference was so much tighter that they just brought their level up to here. We brought it up to there, but the difference was bigger and they won. That was a really weird analogy with my hands. But it just goes to show a team like Fenerbahce, they're not going to have a shit game all game. It's the same with Panathinaikos last game, where we blitzed them in the first quarter, but they're going to come back, and they did in the second quarter. In that one, we didn't run out of steam. We managed to hold on and keep the lead throughout pretty much the entirety of the game and then close it out at the end. This game, we struggled a bit more. Now, would you say it would be a different game if you had Milutinov on the court, especially against the front court like Fenerbahce? We were chatting off air with Johanni earlier about how Dante Hall, which we are going to talk about, in my opinion, had his best game of the season so far. I think he finished 2 points below his career high, not just Olympiacos high, but career high. Had a great game, dominated, but Fenerbahce don't necessarily have a good front line. So having Milutinov in, would we have absolutely spanked them? Who knows? But yeah, overall, optimistic going forwards, and we're going to touch upon why that is, but primarily the signings and how the mood has turned on the back of that Panathinaikos win. Let's chat a little bit about the game. Johanni, there's a couple of players that and things that we need to highlight. But let's talk about Dante Hall first of all. I think he was Vezenkov. We expect he finished as the MVP for us with PIR of 32, but second after him was Dante Hall with 23 PIR, 16 points in 27 minutes. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Dante Hall had a good game. Let's first of all be clear, his main deficiencies for us aren't on the offensive end. Usually they're on the defensive end. The fact that he can't really switch on the pick and roll, the fact that he's not great at defending really talented bigs, and the fact that he usually tries to go and block shots instead of boxing out, so will tend to miss some rebounds on the defensive end. I think the fact that they didn't have an incredibly talented front line that could punish him offensively helped hide some of his weaknesses, which I think were prevalent in the sort of second quarter against Panathinaikos. But I think offensively he did his job. I would have liked for us to play more pick and roll with him and try and find him more, but Fener were doing a pretty good job of bumping him on the roll, so we couldn't find him with that first pass. There were a couple of instances where he could have made an extra pass into the corner, but beyond that, I think, he had an effective game. He did what he was supposed to do with the big minutes that he got. Again, I won't say I'm surprised. It's not, we know who Dante Hall is. He's been around for a very long time. Very athletic, big, one of the highest field goal percentages in the paint every year. Talented offensive player. Really good performance from him today, of course. He is usually better on his free throws, I will say. Today, I think he was.
Today was a bad free throw game, 2 for 5.
Yeah, today was a bad, 2 for 5 when usually he's a bit better. But other than that, solid job from Dante.
Did his fourth foul cost us momentum? This is something that Kostas highlighted pre-game. I should probably ask Kostas. I am actually gonna ask Kostas. It's just that we were chatting about this. Kostas, you mentioned this before the show, but you felt like his fourth foul, with about 7 minutes to go before the end of the fourth, ruined our momentum. The game was tied at the time, or we were 2 points down. Do you still think that?
But you're asking Costa if Dante Hall going out cost us. It's like a pun from the sun, isn't it?
God, he's such a dad,
mate. Do you know what? I think yes, it did. Like the short answer, because if you look at our lineup after that, I think we were on we had Monte Morris on the floor with Fournier and Dorsey, Peters, and who was the other one? It was just a lineup.
We had Vezenkov, I thought. We played with both.
It was just a lineup. How many times have we seen that this season?
Well, never, because Monte
exactly.
Morris, yeah,
exactly. So it's a lineup that's out there that it's not tried and tested. You're playing against the best defensive team in the league, if I'm not mistaken. I think their season average so far in terms of points against is 79. And we ended up with 80. And I just think that, when you're in that kind of situation, playing against that kind of team, you need your flow. You need your rhythm as a team to have a chance of closing that game out. And the game was still, I think we were ahead by a couple of points at that point during the game. They hadn't swung the game, but we saw what happened. And on the other hand, one might say yes, but we were talking offline with Ioannis saying, okay, but Fener had a small ball team out, and there's a question as to whether Kostas Antetokounmpo could have been out on the floor instead of Alec Peters. But again, if you go back to tried and tested lineup, even with Kostas,
but he wasn't bad. He wasn't bad in the first half. He was getting the ball down low and dishing it appropriately. He had one nice assist. He had one good, in the 5 minutes that he played, he sort of spread the court.
There was a nice assist he had behind.
There was a nice little balance. Yeah, it didn't look crowded or awkward. It looked like everyone sort of knew where their position was. Yes, obviously that's second quarter, not crunch time, but surely when you see it work for 3 or 4 minutes, don't you want to show some faith in maybe doing it again, or do you?
You're loaning him.
It's too important now, so I have to go with my best players, even if they're not playing the right position.
Theoretically, right? And in practice, you have a small ball lineup out there. You don't have a Ken Birch out on the court, so you say, okay, I'm going to throw in Peters. I'm going to match them. And style of play.
Well, why do we have to match them in their game and they not match us in ours?
True. Yeah, that's the flip side. But for me, I like to see Peters in positions where he's more effective. I think the matchup with Melli, I think, is a bigger body. In the paint, he did win a couple of fouls. Got a big offensive rebound, if I remember well. But just I don't know how to say it in English now. Just like as easy as that. Like, how do you say adokimos schema in English?
Untested,
Yeah,
untried lineup.
untested lineup. That's what it comes down to. And to kind of go back to a point you made earlier, if we had Milutinov, Tyson Ward available in this game, did they actually have any injury? Did they have any injury
Yeah.
worries? They Will Beckin's out. Who else is missing? Like they have a couple of players out too, don't they? But I think Milutinov, like in that kind of game, with the form that he's been in as well, is a completely different proposition. This game, I think we close it out, but that's neither here nor there. And hindsight's 2020.
Can I raise a point and kind of disagree a little bit with that whole idea of the untried lineup, because it is a tried lineup. We played it last year. Obviously, we didn't have the same players, but we played it last year against Armani on the road with Peters at the 5 playing big minutes, and he actually won us the game. I think we do need a lineup that can stretch the floor, because even Tyrique Jones can't shoot threes. And some teams like Red Star, for example, they ran us off the floor by playing Ogilvy at the 5. And at the time, we didn't put Peters in, and we let them continue to punish us with long threes from Semi Ogilvy because Milutinov and Hall couldn't guard him out there. So I think, yeah, it's an untried lineup, probably in a game this season. If it's untried in practice as well, then that speaks more to Barzoka than it does to anybody else, because it should be a lineup that's tried. Peters has shown that he has the ability to play the 5 for a short stretch if we need him to, in order to meet what the other team is doing. Because when I was watching the game and Hall got his third and his fourth foul in consecutive possessions, I was actually thinking, and hindsight is 2020, but I was actually thinking Peters needs to be in instead of Hall right now, because I could see that they had Melli playing the 5, who stretches the floor, and both Hall, Milutinov, and Jones, I think Jones to a lesser extent, but Hall and Milutinov definitely are struggling to guard bigs on the perimeter. So I like the idea of having, in our back pocket, the ability of putting Peters at the 5 and playing for a few minutes in that way. And it's a tough one too, because Peters had 3 big plays consecutively. He had a big offensive rebound off that Fournier 3 when we were down 2, and we got another possession back. We were down 4, actually, and Fournier had to take a long 3 at the end of the shot clock, and Peters got that offensive rebound and the foul under the rim, and then he hit both free throws. Then on the next play, he takes a charge. So, but then obviously, he missed his 2 threes that he took, and he also conceded that stupid corner 3 foul that essentially cost us the game. So it's a tough one. It didn't work out today, but I don't necessarily mind the idea of being able to stretch the floor with Peters at the 5. I think we should try it more in the league a little bit so that we can have the option. Of course, when Jones comes in, everything changes. But overall, I'm not that angry at trying to match what they do with putting Peters in. And I don't think Kostas would have been anywhere near as effective, because he definitely can't guard Melli out there. And I think while, yes, he had a few good moments in the second quarter, I saw somebody get the ball and be hesitant with it. And there were a couple plays where I was just like, if Hall was in there, he could have taken 2 pivots and dunked the ball, and Kostas was just stuck with it in the corner. So that's my view on
it. Do we want to get into sort of, you've both touched upon Jones and what he's going to bring, that. Do we want to move on to the Tyrique Jones signing, or do we want to talk a little bit more regularly about the halfway through the season? Because due to the situation that we had last month with the Fenerbahce game at Sef with the flooding, we're a game behind the rest of the league. This game was our 19th game of the regular season. So now we are technically halfway through. But we've been talking about Tyrique Jones quite a bit, and I know that a lot of people want to sort of analyze that. So I'm thinking it would be a smoother transition to talk about Tyrique Jones and what he brings, because you've both mentioned a couple of things about defensively and what Hall is missing, or what Milutinov is missing, and what Tyrique Jones brings. I mean, huge signing, in my opinion. It makes us the best front court in Europe, which we'll talk about later. But what Tyrique Jones brings that is different to both Milutinov and Hall, not to the extent that Ioanni's saying could guard a stretch 5 all the way out to the 3-point line and play small ball with someone like against Melli or whatever. He's a better defender on the post up than Hall is, right? Like what Ioanni was saying earlier is that Hall defensively, that's where his liabilities are. He's great at protecting the ring with blocks. I think he's not block leader, but he's up there. He's I don't remember the stats. As his block leader, but he is towards the top of the blocks. He's great at that. But you see, there are holes when it comes down to set plays and when it comes down to losing his man here or there. Whereas Tyrique Jones is much more of a rock. And the difference he has with Milutinov is that he's a little bit faster. He can guard the pick and roll better because he's quicker, he's more athletic. So he takes the best parts of Milutinov defensively and the best parts of Hall defensively and sort of combines them into one. Yes, both Milutinov and Hall have better things than him in certain aspects, but I think Tyrique Jones is a little bit more complete overall defensively. And that could give us a bit more athleticism and speed when we do play against a team that plays either small ball or a stretch five. What do you guys think about that? Costa?
Yeah, I mean, there have been so many videos and analyses about what Tyrique Jones is bringing to the team, his athleticism, energy. I think Ioanni mentioned already he's better on switch defense, whereas Donta Hall is better as a weak side defender and help defense, like to make those big blocks. Tyrique Jones is a player that can move laterally faster defensively, so it helps on the switch. I think he can get out into the court on a transition offense much faster. And perhaps we'll talk about this later on, but if we're considering that Tyrique Jones is going to be our essentially second unit 5, if you think that you're going to be, putting him in a lineup with the likes of Monte Morris, who is an expert in playing the pick and roll, playing Tyson Ward, you think about how fast, how athletic, the speed at which that second unit's going to be playing with is actually quite scary on paper. Alec Peters in that lineup as well, and Evan Fournier. Yeah. So the prospect of that lineup is exciting, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. That's one way of looking at it. The other, I think the other thing that some people are missing or some people are forgetting is that when you play against a team like Valencia or Paris, team that loves to run the court, hits a shot within like the first 7-8 seconds of a possession and the ball's going up and down, Milutinov gets tired running up and down the whole game, and that reduces his effectiveness, I feel, on the offensive end. So we could see in those kinds of games Tyrique Jones having more minutes actually than Milutinov to adapt to those kinds of situations. So I wouldn't. Yes, Milutinov is the number 1 starter in the lineup, but that doesn't mean that Tyrique Jones is going to be limited to 15-minute, like 16, 17-minute games. In my opinion, I think it will be, on a case-by-case basis. He's going to need some time to adapt, but also I think, just getting him out of that situation that he was in Partizan. At the start of the season, everyone was really looking at Tyrique Jones as one of the dominant best centers in the league, but we haven't really seen that because the situation at Partizan, and hopefully this change of environment for him gives him extra motivation and just that place that he needs to really show the EuroLeague and the basketball world what he can do in a well-oiled machine that is Bartzokas' team. And once he gets accustomed and he knows the plays, and surely that they're gonna run some new plays for him specifically, I think it's going to be very exciting to watch.
Ioanni, do you agree? Do you think it will be on a case-by-case basis how he plays, or is Bartzokas going to be a little bit more stubborn like we all know him to be when it comes down to minutes?
No, I think I agree. I think, look, ultimately he is one of the premier bigs in the league. Bringing him in brings us way up a level. I agree with Costa that there's a few games that he's probably better suited to than Milutinov is. And one of those games, Valencia, Paris, games like that, 100% agree. I don't know how different he is to Dante Hall. I think they're quite similar. I think the one main difference is that Tyrique has better feet, quicker feet, which makes him better at guarding the perimeter on a switch if he has to. It makes him quicker at getting back to the big on a hedge out, on a pick and roll. And it also makes him sort of slightly more of a threat if he gets the ball, because Dante Hall is the kind of player that if he gets the ball under the basket, he can finish. Tyrique Jones can do that, but he can also, get the ball on a short roll, take one dribble, and then, fake out, make a reverse step and dunk the ball. He's a little bit more, I don't want to say flexible, but he's a little bit more of a threat, 5 to 10 feet away from the basket, not shooting the ball, but, pivoting, making a move.
He's got moves in the post.
Yeah, he's got
more moves in the post. Yeah.
So I'm happy. I think he's going to be a big upgrade for us. But then again, I don't know how much he's going to be able to reproduce the types of numbers he put up with FS and with Partizan. I think he's going to be good, but obviously with a more limited role, because he probably is going to be playing 15, 16, 17 minutes in most games. There might be some games where he plays more than Milutinov. It depends. Of course, one thing that this definitely does is it makes a situation where Milutinov has to be out for a game, 2 games, 3 games. It makes that a lot less risky. We saw today what Milutinov being out can do. Dante Hall and Kostas Antetokounmpo together are definitely not, 2 bigs, the only 2 bigs of a Premier team in the league, and this just gives us insurance against that as well. And it also probably means Milutinov can rest a little bit more in some games, which I think we want. I do think his defensive deficiencies are quite similar to Hall's. Outside of being able to guard on the switch, he also looks for blocks because he's an athletic player. And of course, when you leave your feet, when a guard's going for a layup and you're the big and you leave your feet to try and block the shot up high, that of course means that people can come in behind you and grab an offensive rebound. And that's what happens with Hall a lot of the time. And that's what might happen with Tyrique Jones too. Milutinov doesn't do that, which is, the reason why his rebounding is so high. But of course, his blocking isn't as high. So it's kind of a give or take, but I think Jones is a big upgrade on Hall as far as offensive ability, as far as defensive ability. And then also that means that Hall is now your 3rd center, which is just an absolute luxury to have a player like that as your, 3rd center. Overall, though, great signing. Good on the team for getting it done.
Am I the only one that's noticed just Dante Hall's hands when it comes to rebounding? Just not good. There were multiple times today and in other games where literally like the ball's right there and it kind of just like hits his finger and goes out. There was, I don't know if you caught the moment today.
Coordinated. Looks like
it's just
he lacks hand-eye coordination, like a little bit too lanky, too long.
Yeah. Did you see Dorsey's reaction on one of the defensive rebounds that he missed, like under the basket, literally like bounced in front of him. He went to catch it with his hands down. It just bounced out and Dorsey's like pulling his hair out, screaming. I think it was a 5-point game. We could have gone up the other end. Like, yeah.
You touched upon it, Ioanni. Dante Hall being our 3rd big. I mean, we touched upon earlier that he was, based on PIR, 2nd best player today. Kostas Antetokounmpo's going on loan to Ari. I think today was his last game. I think he's heading to Thessaloniki straight away. And it was good that he hadn't left, because otherwise we would have had no bigs apart from Hall. So it would have been even crazier in that situation. But okay, so he's gone. Dante Hall is our 3rd big. A player like Hall, who's come from Baskonia, where he got obviously more minutes. Monaco, where again, more similar situation to here, bigger team than Baskonia. But how is he going to react to something like this? I mean, how do you think? How is Barzokas going to keep all of them happy? It's going to be tricky.
If you're asking me,
sorry.
I think he makes enough money to be happy. He's a professional. He knows that this is about winning, and quite frankly, I don't think he's a big enough personality where it matters. There's always going to be discontent in a team. I'm honestly, I don't think he's got enough influence in the locker room, even if he is incredibly dissatisfied, to change much. I think he's a professional. He's been around for so long and he makes enough money think, he's making almost $1 million a year. If you paid me $1 million, like I wouldn't mind. You know what I mean?
There might
worst
be a
case,
difference
if
in
you
skill
really
set between you and Dante Hall, but yeah.
Well, don't be so. Well, the point is, I think
101. You heard it here first, Dante. Pull up.
He's getting paid. Look, he's getting paid a lot of money. He's a professional. He's still going to get his minutes here and there. Even if he does have a huge problem with it, I don't think that's going to bleed into the rest of the team. I think it's fine.
Fairs. Costa, do we have the best front court in Europe? Most of our fans appear to think so. I certainly think so. What do you think?
I think there's a lot of hype around this question. And I think offensively, possibly the answer is yes. But defensively, I don't think so. So think about it, okay? Which other teams?
I can name 2 or 3 off the top
defensively. All right. What about Monaco?
Real Madrid defensively because of Tavares, and offensively you're thinking who else could give you a run for your money? Monaco, Barcelona.
Monaco have got Tice.
Yep.
And Hayes. And they have Sasha Vezenkov's Kryptonite, Blossom Game. And they've got Mirotic that they can bring in if they want to switch it up offensively. So I think they've got a strong front court.
But I still think ours is better.
Defensively, no. I don't see it. Defensively, I think their front court is better than ours. And then at Madrid, you've got Garuba, Tavares, you mentioned, Lyles,
Len.
Len as well. So I think like, again, offensively, if you're asking me, like I'd be fairly confident to say that we are the best, if not one of the best. Defensively, I'm not so sure. Like Sasha defensively, we all know, not great. Peter's neither. Milutinov, we know what he's good at, what he's not so good at. Jones yet to be seen. So yeah, that I think we need to clearly distinguish here whether we're talking about offense, defense. It changes the conversation.
Ioanni?
Costa, quick question. Is Sasha Vezenkov one of the best players in Europe?
Yes.
Is Milutinov the best center in Europe?
Yes.
Ish. Okay, so offense matters more than defense overall. I think so. That's why I would say we do have the best.
In today's game and definitely in the regular season, but defense wins you championships, right?
100%, and big defensive performances win you championships. But you have to have I think we do on paper, no question. I don't think paper matters as much as on the court, because I will say that Panathinaikos have the best backcourt in Europe on paper, because TJ Shorts was the 3rd MVP candidate last year. 2nd, if you ask some people, obviously not us, but some people. And on paper, that looked unstoppable. In practice, there's problems. So I think on paper, look, we've got the best center in Europe. We've got the best power forward in Europe right now, in my opinion. I think the power forward question is no doubt. I think this season, Milutino's been the best center. So I think when you've got the best starter,
top of PIR leaderboard.
Yeah.
Period.
Vezenkov's second. So when you've got the best player in both front court positions, and then you've got Tyrique Jones, Alec Peters, and Dante Hall behind them, which all of them, Tyrique Jones and Alec Peters would start on, I think, more than most of the teams in Europe. And then I think Dante Hall is a very good second option for a lot of teams. I think on paper, you do have the best front court in Europe. Obviously not defensively, but I think today's game, offense does matter more than defense. And I think we've also as a team decided that we're going to prioritize our offense over our defense. So I think to me the answer is yes. Clearly, personally.
We genuinely forgot one of the biggest things though. How are we going to play against Valanciunas?
And Lesor.
And Lesor's going to come out. Valanciunas going to come in. Valanciunas going to come out. Lesor's going to come in. How are we going to deal with that?
Let's not assume that these things are going to happen before they happen.
How are we going to deal with that front court?
Didn't you hear they were also getting Dario Saric and Yabusele, and who else are they getting now?
Nigel Hayes-Davies.
Yeah. They're lining them up for the big band.
Yeah. Yabusele heard that. Yeah, Busele heard that DPG is coming for him, and he went and he said, "I'm not going anywhere. I want that lifetime pension and healthcare guaranteed for me and my family." He came out straight away and was like, "No, I'm staying for 5 years in the NBA."
Look, Valanciunas is a huge issue. That's a huge issue for anyone. I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then I saw the EuroBasket when he played against us, and yeah, that man's unstoppable. So
He's a
if
bit
they
of a
do bring
beast.
him, he's a lot of a beast. He's not a bit.
Yeah, he's a bit of a
He's not a
beast.
bit of a beast. If they bring him, that's a problem. We'll see. We'll see when the time comes.
With the fact that we've sort of agreed that we have the best front court in Europe, at least defensively, are we now favourites to win the EuroLeague? Now, that is a big, big statement to make. And I know Ioanni's going to get up the actual odds that probably DraftKings have up in front of him. But what do you guys think? Costa?
Are we the favourites? I don't want to be the favourites, man. Like I
Me
much
neither. It doesn't suit
prefer.
us.
Exactly. This team is so well suited to more of an underdog role. It's shown historically. I think, yeah, again, historically, it's proven that whenever we do go in with that title of the favorite, we buckle under. We appear to buckle under the pressure. I think it's, we are at the halfway point of the season, and hang on a minute. If I pull up the
Well, that's
standings
what
right
it's going to
now,
lead to. It's going to lead
yeah,
to halfway through the season, 11-8 records.
right. If you're asking me right now, the answer is no.
Right now, off the back of
No.
what we've seen so far this season, and now the signing of Tyrique Jones, and obviously the signing of Monte Morris last month.
I
Where the team
want to
is right
see.
now.
I want to see where we are mid to late February when we hope and we expect Monte Morris to be in better physical shape, and Tyrique Jones with some games under his belt. I think we'll have a better opportunity for a temperature check and to revisit this question a month and a half from now. And I don't know if it's by choice or by chance, the way that events have led us to this moment. The fact that we haven't been playing great basketball, whereas last season, the season before, we were just dominating, being top four, top of the rankings, going into the final four, etc. And whether we're going to see this gradual kind of incline and improvement in our performance going into the final four, a bit like Fener last season. We know that Jaskevicius does that with his teams as well. So I'm curious to see where we are a month and a half from now.
Ioanni?
But like, I
Costa
guess
gave us a
one.
very political answer. He hasn't said yes or no. He's just sort of dodged the question. Classic European bureaucrat. Lives in Brussels. What do you expect?
I don't work for the commission, though. Call me bureaucrat.
I know. Can I get a more straight yes or no answer from our American friend?
No.
We're not favorites.
No. First of all, we're not on the betting market. Let's be clear. We're second favorites on the betting market behind Papanikolaou.
Behind who?
Start with that. Papanikolaou.
Really?
Well, yeah, I mean, they're playing at home. They've got probably one of the best rosters on paper. They're the favorites, and they have been since the start of the season. But I don't think they're the favorites. For me, Monaco are the favorites. The way I saw them handle us, I'm worried about them. If we were to see them in the semifinal or the final or even in the playoffs, I wouldn't be optimistic. I'm not saying I don't think we could win, but I haven't seen anything from this team, from our team yet, to tell me that we're favorites. I think we're a good team. I think we have one of the best rosters. I think we're definitely in it. I believe in this team, and I haven't wavered in my belief all season. But as to whether we are the number one team they're favorited to win right now, I would say no. And I'm fine with that, because we have been in years past, and we all know how that ended. So
the general consensus is that we all kind of don't want to be the favorites, but it's something that when you make big signings and when you have a stacked roster, there is this expectation of you that you don't really get to pick, even if the performances aren't necessarily there. You just said Panathinaikos is the favorite. Yeah, they're playing at home. They have a stacked roster on paper, but Valencia, Hapoel, Fener, Monaco, all have better records than them. All have been playing better basketball. Like that, you've seen. I have more faith in them than I have Panathinaikos. Panathinaikos haven't shown me anything this season so far to go, yeah, they're going to be unstoppable. So sometimes
But you could have made the same argument. You could have made the same argument about Red Star a month ago.
What do you mean, that they're not as
They had
strong?
at the time.
Or
They,
that
at
were
the time
strong?
they had the best record. Like I don't like Valencia and Hapoel. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
but
have to see more.
but this is halfway through the season now. There's a difference when you've had 10 games in the season. There's a different when you've had half the season. Everyone's played everyone now.
Paris were at the top. Paris were at the top halfway through the
Yeah,
season.
Paris had an exceptional season.
And they finished 8th.
But yeah, brilliant season, fantastic season.
Yeah,
but
but
first,
okay,
but
all right,
eight
okay.
can be
Okay.
first.
Let's make a
8
bet right
can be
now. Let's make a
first.
bet right now. Would you say that Hapoel and Valencia, if you had to pick Hapoel, Valencia, or Panathinaikos, which of those three is the most likely to win the EuroLeague? Where are you putting your money?
Obviously, I'm putting Panathinaikos, but I'm not
Well, then
saying. But what I'm saying is that the title of favorite is thrust upon you, even if you don't deserve it necessarily with your performances.
Sure.
So that's what I'm saying about Panathinaikos, and that's what I'm saying about us. That even though we don't necessarily want to be favorites, the question I'm posing about are we the favorites is because of the Monte Morris and Tyrique Jones signing, specifically the Tyrique Jones signing. People now have this expectation of us where there are no gaps in the Olympiacos roster, surely. So what's the excuse if they don't win it?
But it's not always about roster. Fener had glaring gaps in their roster last season. Glaring. They still haven't signed.
They still don't have a 5.
They still don't. I mean, maybe Chris Silva works out, but they didn't have a 5 and they still won. So it's not always about who do you have on paper. Sometimes it's just about peaking at the right time in the season and having players that hit huge shots at the right times.
Of course.
Like that's all it is. It's really the EuroLeague is really hard to predict because of the Final Four system. It's tough.
And the way the EuroLeague is, in my opinion, usually stats don't lie, right? Especially in basketball, stats don't lie. It's not like football where you can scrape a win with 10% possession because you've defended the whole game and then you fluke a goal. Usually the better team wins, and the better team across the season tends to win the championship, at least especially in the NBA in a 7-game series. In the EuroLeague, that's a little bit different because of the Final Four system. That I'd say it's quite even, and only about half the time, maybe 60% of the time, does the best team in the league actually win it at the end.
Depends how you define best. If it's the best record, 0%.
Not necessarily the best record, but like if they finish second or third, but they've been absolutely incredible throughout the whole season, and it's like 1 or 2 games in it, then obviously they're still at the top. But yeah, it's going down this sort of favorite situation and who's going to win it and how they're going to win it. And Fenerbahce had this last year, and then, someone's shoe slipped off, and, ifs, buts, and maybes is a huge rabbit hole. It's just that I'm seeing a lot on social media, and there's a lot of pressure that's going to be put on the team now if we're the favorites to win because of this signing. At least in my opinion, I'm expecting that they're going to have this hearing it. They're going to be hearing it a lot, especially coach.
But that's just Greek media. That's just Greek media for you. A month ago, it was, oh, we're not going to make the playoffs and we're all screwed and we need to fire Barzoka and we need to do all these things. And now we're having a discussion about whether we're the favorites to win the whole thing. It's what Greek media does.
That wasn't just Greek media, though. That was a lot of our fans. I mean, I don't want to put any names out there, but there's a lot of people that I remember chatting. What was it, about a month ago, you and I, and chatting about how the catastrophization of Olympiacos fans and Greek fans in general. So yes, we're very
we're quick to praise and quick to hate.
Yeah, very quick. And
quick to anger, right?
And I worry that if we don't go on a 10-game winning streak, people are going to come out and start saying crazy things again. I'm seeing a couple of comments here. I don't really want to give them a lot of airtime because I think that it's this catastrophization that we're talking about. But for example, here we're seeing this comment from
But this
Zavala.
is a known, but this is a known guy. He's never positive about anything.
Yeah, but this is the sort of problem that we need. This players and teams get influenced by stuff like this, because if there's a narrative around a team, it can affect them. They're professionals, I know, and it shouldn't, but it can, especially when the
It's their
media
job
are
not to.
on you. Sorry.
It's their job not to be affected by it.
Of course. But yeah, it's stuff like this. Let's move on to a more positive thing, just because I sort of put it down a little bit about talking about how these tags can bring a team down. Quick shout out to our captain, to Kostas Papanikolaou. I mean, a living legend. I think a third player behind Spanoulis and Pridesis who is going to get his jersey retired. I don't think anyone is going to be surprised when that happens, when he retires. He got 2 rebounds today. He only needed 1 to become the all-time leading rebounder in Olympiacos history, surpassing another legend, Yorgos Pridesis. I mean, what can we say about Papanikolaou? His stats today weren't the best. 20 minutes, 0 points, PAR of 1. Didn't really have the most influence on the court, but what this guy has given Olympiacos over, wait, I've got this. I want to say 17, was his first season 2010, 2011 or 2011, 2012? I mean, I know he left for
2009, 2010.
There you go. 2009,
I was in the
2010.
Final
I know
Four in
obviously
Paris. He was there.
Spent a couple of years at Barcelona. He went to the NBA for the Rockets, and I think he played for the Nuggets. I think he got traded and played for the Nuggets for a bit as well. And then he came back when, in 2019?
No, 2015, 2016, somewhere there.
Shit, he's been 10 years. Wow.
2016.
Wow,
yeah.
time flies. Yeah. It was much before COVID. My God. Yeah. Sorry, but yeah, what a guy, what a personality. Always just so humble, such an amazing leader. The definition of Olympiacos, in my opinion. Really, no one can say anything bad about him. Even fans of opposing teams. Captain of the Greek national team. A privilege that we have someone like that on our team. Costa, anything you want to shout out about K-Pap?
Man, I've got a lot of love for K-Pap. I think, if the guy didn't get injured while he was playing for the Rockets, and I remember they traded Corey Brewer, I think, at the time, I think he would have had a much more longevity in the league. People forget like how aggressive and how athletic he actually was in his youth, like slamming the ball down, like postering people like he did like the other day against Panathinaikos, the dunk in the first quarter. That was him. Like that's Papanikolaou, just pure passion, like just like wears his heart on his sleeve, and that like translates, and it's viral to his teammates as well, like his passion for the game. And I honestly, like, we put Spanoulis and Peridesis on a pedestal, and I was thinking about this earlier today, and I didn't know that he was up for breaking the record.
No, me neither.
But for me, that whole conversation about those 3, I think, Spanoulis is rightly kind of in a category of his own, like just an absolute demon of a player and a personality, Mamba mentality and all of that. I think he's in a category of his own. But this for me is just like what you and I dream of, as fans, is that, you're an Olympiacos fan, and I would love to play for my team and hit a big shot that wins us a trophy. And it's like, it's every fan's dream. That's what Bridesis is to me. And of course, like, his skill and his craft, how he improved his game over the years, the ups and downs, Malaga, almost retiring, then coming back to Olympiacos. And Papanikolaou is just, I think he's so underrated, man, and so disrespected, including by our fan base. It angers me so much. And to kind of bring it to today, the beginning of the season, he wasn't getting minutes. And there's, again, conversation brewing amongst Olympiacos fans. Why isn't Papanikolaou playing? Barzokas is disrespecting him, etc., etc., etc. Tyson Ward gets injured and Kostas Papanikolaou starts to get more minutes, and immediately, to me, what I've seen since Tyson Ward got injured, first couple of games were very difficult. We were adjusting, but essentially bringing Papanikolaou into that starting five, it started allowing Sasha to, like, it helped him improve his performances over the last few games. And in general, I just think he's the glue guy. He brings out the best in all his teammates. And again, for me, like, if I had to characterize him in one word, it's just underrated, like, in what he brings as well. Like, 3-point sniper shooter on his day. What is he shooting? 48% the last 5-6 games for us is unreal, man, and is, again, a player that's going to be irreplaceable for us. Period.
Yanni?
Yeah, nothing else to say. Well, a couple things. I think, he is that glue guy. I think just him being out on the floor even today, in general, is just about always making the extra pass, always making the back cut, always doing the right thing, because he knows the system and he knows the team and he knows the fan base, and he always carries himself with dignity, never steps out of line. And, you even think back, I remember 2012 in the Final Four, in the final against CSKA, he was our best player in that game. Not many people remember that, but he scored 16 points in that final. He was 20 years old. And not only that, but when it was 61-58, we were down 3. He gets fouled, obviously intentionally, because there's like 10, 11 seconds left in the game. And as a 20-year-old, he hits both free throws with 10 seconds left in the EuroLeague final to bring us to within 1 point, which was the play right before we fouled Trylos, who missed 2 free throws, and then we scored the game winner. But you just think of the poise he had when he was 20 to do that. We don't win that championship if it wasn't for him. And he's been there and been with us since then. Yeah, he left for a couple of years here and there, but even last year, playoffs against Real Madrid, hits 4 threes in game 4 in Madrid, right? Huge plays, massive plays. He's always there when it matters the most. I think this season, obviously, he didn't have his legs at the start of the year, right? Played in the EuroBasket. The guy's 35 years old. Didn't have his legs at the start of the season. Also, Tyson Ward's coming in. You're trying to integrate him into the offense. But I think what we've seen is that Pap has to be the starter, because when Pap's the starter, we just play better basketball. When you bring, because we had Walkup out for a while as well. When you have Walkup and Pap playing together, that frees up the rest of the team and they play the right way. Nothing bad to say about Pap. I don't think anybody does. I think he's obviously not as loud as Spanuli and Peridesi. Spanuli because of just everything about him. Peridesi because of the huge shots he's hit and, his connection with the fans. I think Papanikolaou is just quiet, consummate professional, always a soldier, doesn't even get mad when he doesn't play. He's always there for the team. I think we should all be happy we have a player like that.
Nice. Right, let's round it up. We're coming close to an hour. I think the best way to sort of round it up is by having a roundup of the halfway mark. Just how we found everything so far. What do we think is going to happen going forwards? And anything you're happy or displeased about with the team so far. Costa, I'll pass it over to you first. I think you're muted, mate. I don't know if that was me knocking over my mic that did that. No, it was you.
No, so I'm definitely in a better place than I was a couple of weeks ago after those 3 losses in a row. I believe that hopefully we found the recipe in terms of our starting 5 and our second unit, and I want to give a shout out to Fournier, and I want to troll Basket News a little bit as well, because I was looking at some of their, like, one of their posts today. They were doing like mid-season awards, and whoever did most disappointing
most disappointing they did, didn't they?
Yeah, most disappointing season, most disappointing player of the season, they had Evan Fournier. That guy doesn't know shit about basketball, man. Like, I'm sorry, but and I'm saying that because they even referenced the Panathinaikos game and the fact that he had 2 points. But Fournier wins that game with the 2 defensive plays that he has at the end. and just his overall pick and roll play, like leading the team in the fourth quarter. So yeah, basket news, whoever did that, most disappointing player of the season. Yeah, no. Definitely TJ Shorts though. That's my shout for most disappointing player of the season. But anyway, my point was, when you've got a guy like Evan Fournier who reportedly is coming out and proactively kind of telling coaching staff and players that Dorsey needs to be the starting five, and he doesn't have any problem like sitting on the bench and playing in the second unit. Like that shows, there's a healthy locker room, and especially when it's a player like that, man, like 12-year NBA veteran personality like Fournier. And I actually remember we had this conversation the last time the three of us were on. We were talking about like Dorsey and Fournier being in the same lineup and whether our starting five should have Fournier and Dorsey in the lineup. I was of the opinion that no, you need to split them up. And we asked ourselves the question, but is Fournier the type of guy that's going to give up his starting role? And we've come to a place now where even the reporters are coming out today and saying that he has actually taken these steps internally in the team. And that's a really positive signal for me. We'll see to what extent Dorsey can keep the hot streak going like throughout the season, because that was also a question that I think all of us had like earlier on in the season when we were debating. It's like, okay, he's hot at the start of the season. How long can he keep it up for? But to kind of wrap things up from my perspective, I think we should know what our starting five is right now. Milutinov at center, Vezenkov at power forward, our small forward being Papanikolaou at the three, and then you've got Walkup and Dorsey starting the games. And then now you have Tyrique Jones coming in as a backup center, or in the roles that we discussed. We've got Alec Peters, we've got Tyson Ward coming back, we've brought in Monte Morris, Nilikina for like those kind of special ops, like defensive matchups, and I'm missing someone. Yeah, Fournier at the two. So things change all the time. There's evolving situations, but theoretically, if you put those two, the starting five and the second unit down, and you look at that and say, we've got something good here. And again, I'm excited for what's to come. I think we've got Bayern Munich next at home.
Right there.
The last home game we played was against Valencia, so I think we need to, or was it Asvel? Besides the point, we need to show a good performance against Bayern and get another winning streak going.
Ioanni?
Yeah, I think the main thing I'm looking for is the fact that I think our second five is, I would argue, the best second five we've ever had, and on par with our starting five from 2 years ago. Monte Morris, Evan Fournier, Tyson Ward, Alec Peters, and Tyrique Jones is a joke of a backup lineup. I think that lineup, so far this season, we've had an issue in second quarters with the backup team in. I think now we're going to be an advantage against almost any team, if not every team we play, as far as actual player quality on the floor. I'm looking for Fournier to find consistency. Obviously, he's had a few games on, a few games off. I think he's starting to find it. The last 4 games, he's had 3 good ones, and the fourth one that wasn't good was against Papanikolaou, which, as Kostas said, he was critical in the second half. And I think once he finds that consistency, we're going to be very good. We've got a few easy games in a row now. I think we've got Bayern at home, Partizan on the road, and then Maccabi at home, and then
easy game in the EuroLeague.
Well, comparatively easy game, given the last few that we've had. I think the next, we've got 4 games, 2 at home against Bayern and Maccabi, and then 2 on the road against Partizan and Efes. I'm expecting us to go at least 3, if not 4 out of 4 on those games, because Partizan, Bayern, and Efes and Maccabi are all either 14th or lower. In fact, Efes, Bayern, and Partizan are 3 of the bottom 4 teams in the league. So I'm expecting us to go on a nice little run here. I will also add that Panathinaikos just lost to Armani at home, which is, I think, good news. I just think I'm optimistic. I think we've got we've got a good ramp to go on a good little run here, build some momentum, going into sort of the cup next month as well against Papanikolaou, which is the next sort of huge game I've got my eyes on. So yeah.
Same here. I'm feeling positive. I'm feeling a lot better than I was a couple of weeks ago / months ago. As Ioannis said, there's a good chance, and Kostas said there's a good chance now to sort of go on a streak again and climb the rankings. So let's see. But yeah, positive, excited for what's to come, but baby steps. Let's not sort of get ahead of ourselves, even though I've been asking a lot of questions today that would seem like I'm trying to get ahead of ourselves. But yeah, been a pleasure. Thank you guys for joining me. Thank you everyone who's been watching us tonight. Just one final shout out, if you can, like and subscribe. We really appreciate it. All your support is genuinely so appreciated and helps us spread the word of Thrylos 7 International Olympiacos around the world. And if you can support us on Patreon, that would be very much appreciated. All your financial donations go straight back into what we do here. So thank you very much. With that done, then I'll bid you all a good night. Our next game is on Friday at 9:15 Greek time, I want to say, against Bayern. And yeah, Greek Wednesdays back tomorrow, I want to say.
Subscribe and find out if you haven't already.
Subscribe and find out. And then shows on Sunday. We've got a lot of content on Thrylos 7 International. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us. And it's a good night from us. Have a good one, guys.